G'day mates, it's Donny, and today we've got a few more bits for the Yamaha Majesty. So we're going to talk about what we've got. Exhaust header pipe, hopefully it's the right one, we'll find out soon. The muffler gasket, which slips over here. Really weird sort of thing, not sure you can see it on the camera, but it's kind of like compressed steel wool. It's not actually just metal. So that goes over here, that then slides into the muffler and then clamps around that. So we've got that. New tyre, as everyone saw on the shorts. So let's get stuck into it. Right, first thing we want to do, see the shaft that we got in here. Just going to put a bit of grease in there, so that way in the future, if we ever need to get it off this spline, it's going to have a bit of lubrication rather than just metal on metal. That way if any water or anything gets in, the grease will stop it from rusting up as well. So I'll just chuck some of that on there. Got a bit of grease on this rag. And I'll just try and put it mainly inside this shaft, knowing that we don't want to get too much of it on the brake shoes or anything like that. Alright, next bit, gonna try and keep this shock out of the way and slide the wheel behind it, and then we can hopefully get it to a point where we are now and actually get the wheel on there. There we go. So you can see a little bit of a fight to get it on, but that's out of the way now. This is on, it's good. We're gonna tidy up a bit of the grease that's around the top. It's just from the inside of what we put on before. There we go. Now, next part. When I find it, I actually had to watch the last video to remember where this went, but the first spacer, the actual swing arm, or whatever you want to call this bit, that sits inside here. So we left that there to remind us where it went. Gonna chuck that behind, and that's just gonna sit there like that. So the next thing we'll look at doing, left the bolts in last time, so I can actually just take them out. Because that is that first spacer that's on the wheel that's there. This one is the only one that we actually need to worry about. There's nothing else that goes in behind there. So put that down so I know it's the bottom one. Put this down so I know it's the top one. And we should be able to basically, hopefully, get it to a point like we have here, where there's, oh shit, get the fairing out of the way, don't need to worry about that. But basically what we're going to do is get it to a point where there is no play behind the wheel here, get the bolts back into this side, and then we'll get the shock back on as well. So let's get stuck in. Okay, next part, got the bolts that connect up here. There's no real play behind this because there can't be if you put that bushing in right. So I'll just get the bolts started on here, get the bottom one started. Just to give it a bit more stability. Pretty sure both those bolts are the same length. Find out soon enough. Yep. Yeah, all good. So these are both 12 mils. And because of where this is held into place, we can actually just tighten them up a bit. You don't want them super tight because it is an actual aluminium cast behind it. So you want it tight, but you don't want it ridiculous because it'll crack it. So I'm just going to try and get a little bit tweaked up, which we're cool. We're all good, we've got that. Next bit that I'm going to do on this side of the wheel now, there's this other bushing that goes in. It's just a circular one, not like, if you're trying to figure out which one goes behind or not, the one behind actually has like a flat surface on one side, and it's not the same size the whole way around like this one is. So that's the one that goes on the inside of the wheel. This one goes on the outside. It just sits inside. Might have to actually grab the camera and I'll show you shortly how it actually sits. So give me a sec. Got that bushing again. So it actually sits inside that rubber piece. So you can see now it's actually pressed in here. This is probably why when I first took it off I didn't actually notice, but it sits inside the rubber piece here. And then on top of that, you then just have your bolt that goes into here. Just want to make sure I'm not cross-threading it or anything when it goes on. I think it's just a bit tight. You can see the wheels starting to move as well. So what we'll do is we'll get up and we'll lock that that handbrake mechanism in. All right, if you can see now, what we do with this, hold the brake in, push that forward, so it's towards the camera, but towards the front of the bike. Now let this off, and you can see now it's actually held in place. So that's now gonna lock the wheel, and we can actually lock that nut up. Wheel's all locked up now, so we can start. I'd already started the bolt before, just don't want to show everyone just me twisting like this. Just a reminder too, 22mm bolt for this. Sorry, nut, 22mm. And it is actually meant to be pretty tight. I'm not sure exactly how tight, but we'll get a fair bit of tightness on it. I'll do it down here so we've got it out of the way. See if we can get it on. Here we go. Obviously don't want to over tighten it, but I reckon that should be all right. It isn't going to go anywhere from that. We'll just check these ones again as well. I don't think they need to be any tighter. So there we go. That's obviously still going to be stuck in. At this point though, we can go and unlock that handbrake and we'll just make sure that wheel spins freely. So got that in and we can see it's all moving freely, which is great. And it actually, which is interesting, because it's a driven shaft, this actually does move. So don't be alarmed by that. That is actually normal. You're actually just holding everything together. This should actually move inside the bushings and bearings that you've got there. So we're all good with that. Next thing, we'll get this shock back connected. Just want to talk through quickly something I've just had to do here. If I just had to loosen off these front two bolts that actually connect up to the engine, just because the shock needed to actually have this piece come up a little bit more just so we can get the bolt into the back of it. I'm just going to grease it up a little bit just so that it's got some lubrication as it goes through. Because again, it's the bushing that's inside there, it's metal on metal. So I'm just going to get that sorted. And then goes in from the back. And then we should be able to now actually get it started. So let's try and get that going. Bit hard when you got grease all over your fingers. Probably should have worn gloves, but you know, should be right. There we go. You can feel it going in now. It's a bit weird, the thing's threaded the whole way. Normally when you're going through a bushing like that, they wouldn't thread the whole thing. You'd have a sleeve and then thread at the end. By a sleeve, I just mean you'd have part of the bolt that would have no thread on it. Because otherwise, when you do get through to where the thread is, as you can see, it's actually quite difficult to get through the bushing. So anyway, 12mm bolt. Just gonna keep going at it. And then I'll do the front's tight again, since we've now got this one going in. And then we'll look at the exhaust. So yeah, we'll keep going. You don't need to see this, it's just me tightening a bolt, like nothing exciting. So we'll jump back into the next part soon. Righto, we've got all that in. Just checking to see if there's any noise or anything, whether there's any noise on the disc, whether there's any play in the wheel, which is not, which is really good. You don't really want them rocking like this. On some bikes you can have a little bit of a rock, but you don't want a lot because it'll just wear things out. These bolts are back on, the shock bolt's back in, wheel bolts are on, so all of that part, we're all good. We can now move on to doing the actual exhaust and see if it all fits, so let's check that out. Now we're looking underneath at the exhaust header, and there's two 12mm bolts that hold this in, so I'm just going to see if we can get those out. A little bit hard when you can't see it, but anyway. Also kind of a weird angle for the camera, but you know, you need to see what we're doing. Might actually get a socket onto it if I can. It'll be a much quicker exercise. Alright, 12mm socket, let's go. How good's the noises? I mean, it's okay for me, but on YouTube it probably sucks. It's going to be really metal on metal. Okay, bolt number 1's out. Now this one I don't know whether we can actually get a socket onto it as easy. No, this one might be a matter of having to go at it with the old ring spanner. So again, I might just stop the video because you don't need to watch me do that whole thing. But anyway, ring spanner looks like the go for this back one. Just thought I should show everyone this because I figured out we're onto something here. You can actually get an extension bar up inside. So this is the front side of the actual engine, like just the front side of the frame. I shouldn't say engine frame, but the front side of the frame for the bike. So now we can easily get that bolt off rather than using a ring spanner. So just in case someone's trying to figure that out, that's your easiest way of getting that off. All right, it's both bolts out, and there we go. That's the header out, which is good because now we need to put the other one in. Okay, before we put the exhaust in, this is not the gasket that I was saying steel wool before. So this is the actual exhaust header gasket, the one that goes up in here. Hopefully I don't know if it'll stay in there, so I might have to try and hold it while we fit it up. But it looks like that wasn't actually in there before, so we'll get that fitted in. Right. So if I can try and get this header pipe sitting right. It looks like we've almost got it. You can kind of see what I mean. Then we'll get the bolts on it and have it all held in. Right, I've got it basically just test fitted up. I might see if I can move the camera a little bit and see if we can actually see behind it. Oh, it might be weird. Hold on. So, I'm not sure if you can see behind the bolts, not that side, this side. But basically, for this, the actual, where you put the bolts over, there's actually a flange on the outside of the exhaust. So it's not gonna actually bolt like directly straight when you do it. What I mean by that is you are gonna have a gap between the top, try and get my hand out of the way. You're gonna have a gap between here and the top part of the actual exhaust manifold or the exhaust port on the engine. So don't feel like you've got to over tighten it. That gasket sits in behind here to give it that support. Now the other thing is, at the moment you can see I can move this freely. Probably best to keep it like that until you've got it fitted up for the rear exhaust as well. Sorry, the rear muffler, just to make everything a bit easier. So if you've got this fully tightened, this will obviously move around a fair bit. Sorry, not move around a fair bit. And what we want at the moment is to have a little bit of free play so we can move things. So at the moment, whoop, what are we looking at? Here we go. So this is where we're sitting. Like I said, you can actually have a bit of movement on it now, up and down if we need to. And that's what we want because we're gonna have to bolt up the rest of the actual muffler to the back now, and this needs to meet up with it. So let's get stuck into that. Next part we're gonna look at, that weird gasket I was talking about, that actually gets sleeved over here. That then sits inside the muffler. So the end of it there, you can see. And then there's a clamp that clamps around it. So there's a few things that we're gonna get going on. So first one is, top side of the muffler is actually a longer bolt. So you can see the top side, it's a longer bolt that goes in. The bottom side, just there, is a short bolt. The back side should have a bolt in it, but it didn't have it when I bought it, so we're not putting one back in it at the moment. It is meant to be the exact same as this, so probably find one in the future. But anyway, what I think the best way to approach this is going to be now is obviously we've got a bit of movement in the header pipe. We're going to try and get that lined up, get a bolt into the exhaust, and then we'll try and get that clamp on, because as long as we can get these two bolts in to hold the actual muffler on, we should be golden. So let's give that a try. Just going to quickly talk through the sizing before we get stuck into it. The exhaust bolts, or the muffler bolts, keep on saying exhaust, really it's the muffler. 14mm socket that you'll need for that, for the bolts that go through here. Once you do get it sleeved onto the actual header, that is a 10mm bolt that does the clamp. So I've got the 10mm socket ready to go. All right, let's see what we can do. It's not super heavy, like You know, I'm not some strong man or anything. That's one hand and I can hold it up, which is nice. I'm going to try and sleeve it over this. Feels like it's kind of working, who knows? Maybe not. I was aiming for a bolt in front, which I shouldn't have been, but anyway. Okay. So once we get to here, it kind of actually feels like it's almost into where it should be. You can also as well hold it out just a little bit, just to see where the bolt's sticking through. I think I might need to maybe just stop the camera for a bit and get it lined up. But as you can see now, so we've got the exhaust going onto that gasket, onto the header, and then just got to get this into the right spot. There we go, got it. So now I can get the thread started. Get the 14mm on if I can. Well, no. Well, there you go. Might actually need something else on the top there. Might actually need to get a ring spanner onto it. Oh no, looks like we should be all right now. It's just the orientation I had it on. Now, whenever you're doing these, once I get it to this point, I like to sort of just stop and then try the other bolt. That way, if you do need to adjust something, you've still got a bit of play. It's like this one, for example. It's not quite lined up, so we'll try and get it maneuvered so it can be. And then we'll get that bolt in as well. So I'll get that sorted and then we'll jump into the next bit. Okay, what I'm going to do now, swap back over to this 12mm. I'm just going to loosen the header bolt off just a little bit. Because now we kind of know where they should sit. Just make sure it looks like that's where it's got to be. Can't move it anymore, can't go backwards, can't go forwards. So yeah, realistically, it does look like that's kind of the best way to do it, is sleeve the actual muffler on, then get everything into place, and then we'll do the header bolts up tight, and then we'll come back to doing the this actual clamp on the muffler itself. Last thing we want to do now, get in under here, and probably better to start this off finger tight. Basically just want to get this clamp started. That's started the thread on the other side now, and now we just want to basically tighten it up, because what we're doing is that gasket that we've put in, the muffler gasket, it's going to seal onto that, and I guess that's why they make it that weird compressed steel wool looking stuff. But anyway, and we do actually want this pretty tight, because it's going to, like I just discussed, it's going to be sealing between the muffler and the exhaust header. So we're about as tight as it's going to go soon, I think. Yeah, I don't think it'll go much better than that. All right, yep, header's in. This has got all the bolts that we had when we got it. So, looking good so far. Nice. A moment of truth. My friend Dan always cracks it if I start an engine without the windows or the garage doors being open. Something about poisoning with gas. So anyway, let's turn it on. Yeah, we're on. And let's try and get it started and see what it sounds like. Oh, it's way quieter. I'll try and get another angle just so we can see the exhaust and what it sounds like, but not going to upset the neighbours as much with that. Anyway, I'll grab the camera and we'll have a bit of a better look. As you can see now, we've actually got a muffler doing its job rather than cracking it all out here. You can see the exhaust header pipe on the bottom there. So yeah, pretty cool. getting closer and closer to having it regoed. But cheers everyone, hopefully you've liked that video. If you did, make sure you click the like button and subscribe, and we'll keep going on with this in the future. At the moment, the only thing we've really got left to do is cover the seat that has a hole in it, which you would have seen in the last videos. Once that's done, we should be able to take it for a blue slip and see if we can actually get it legally on the road. Cheers, see you later.